Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nastapreshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Babadina Ishtiki. Hare Krishna, everybody. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 24, the song sung by Lord Shiva, text number 59. Very, very beautiful verses we're going through here. Na yasya chitam bahirartha vibramam Tamo guhayam chavishudama vishat Yad bhakti yoga nugrahitam anjasa Munir vichaste nanu tatrate Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam Tamo guhayam chavishudama vishat Yad bhakti yoga nugrita manjasa Munir vichaste nanu tatrate gatim Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam Tamo guhayam chavishudama visyat Yad bhakti yoga nugrita manjasa Munir vichaste nanu tatrate gatim
Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam
Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam
Guhayam chavishudama vishat
Tamo guhayam chavishudama vistat
Yad bhakti yoga nugritam angyasa
Yad bhakti yoga nugrita manjasa
Munir vichaste nanu tatrate gatim
Munir vichaste nanu tatrate gatim
Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam
Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam
Ayam Shavishira Avishat
Tamo guhayam chavishudama vishtat
Yoga Tamam Jasa
Yad bhakti yoga nugrita manjasa
Astinani Tatra Tegatim
Munir vichaste nanu tatrate gatim
Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam
Nayasya chitam bahirartha vibramam
Hayam chavishudama vishat
Tamo guhayam chavishudama vishtat
Yad bhakti yoga nugrita manjasa
Yad bhakti yoga nugrahita manjasa Munir vichaste nanu gatim. Word for word. Na, never. Yasya, whose. Chitam, heart. Bahi, external. Artha, interest. Vibramam, bewildered. Tamaha, darkness. Guayam, in ho. Cha, also. Vishudam, purified. Avishtat, entered. Yat, that. Bhakti yoga, devotional service. Anugrihitam, being favored by. Anjasa, happily. Muni,
Muni,
the thoughtful.
thoughtful,
Vichaste,
Vichaste,
sees.
sees,
Nanu,
Nanu,
however.
however,
Tatra,
Tatra,
there.
there,
Te,
Te,
your.
your,
Gatim,
Gatim,
activities.
activities.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The devotees whose heart has been completely cleansed by the process of devotional service and who is favored by Bhakti Devi does not become bewildered by the external energy, which is just like a dark well. Being completely cleansed of all material contamination, in this way a devotee is able to understand very happily your name, fame, form, activities, etc. Please repeat. The devotee whose heart has been completely cleansed
The devotee whose heart has been completely cleansed
by the process of devotional service
by the process of devotional service
and who is favored by Bhakti Devi
and who is favored by Bhakti Devi
does not become bewildered by the external energy,
does not become bewildered by the external energy,
which is just like a dark well.
which is just like a dark well.
Being completely cleansed of all material contamination,
Being completely cleansed of all material contamination.
in this way,
In this way,
a devotee is able to understand very happily your name,
the devotee is able to understand very happily your name,
fame, form,
form,
activities,
activities,
etc.
etc.
As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Satam prasangam mama virya sambido bhavanti hritkana rasayana kataha tajyoshanaras vapavarga vartmani shararatir bhakti anukamishyati. This is a Bhakti Vaibhava verse. I've been memorizing it. Simply by the association of pure devotees, one can understand the transcendental name, fame, quality, and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has repeatedly said, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrikoy, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhyoy. Simply by associating with a pure devotee, one becomes wonderfully advanced in Krishna consciousness. Sadhu Sangha, or association with a devotee, means always engaging in Krishna consciousness by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and by acting for Krishna. Specifically, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra purifies one. And this chanting is therefore recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. By chanting the names of Krishna, the mirror of the heart is cleansed, and the devotee loses interest in everything external. When one is influenced by the external energy of the Lord, his heart is impure. When one's heart is not pure, he cannot see how things are related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Idam hi Vishwam Bhagavan Evittara, Bhagavatam 1:5-20. He whose heart is purified can see the whole cosmic manifestation is but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he whose heart is contaminated sees things differently. Therefore, by satsanga, or association with devotees, one becomes perfectly pure in heart. One who is pure in heart is never attracted by the external energy, which urges the individual soul to try to dominate material nature. The pure heart of a devotee is never disturbed when he executes devotional service in the form of hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. In all, there are 9 processes one can follow for the execution of devotional service. In any case, a pure-hearted devotee is never disturbed. The bhakti yoga process must be carried out by avoiding the 10 offenses one can commit while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and the 64 offenses one can commit while worshiping the deity. When a devotee strictly follows the rules and regulations, Bhakti Devi becomes very much satisfied with him, and at that time he is never disturbed by anything external. A devotee is also called a muni. The word muni means thoughtful. A devotee is as thoughtful as a non-devotee is speculative. The non-devotee's speculation is impure, but the devotee's thoughts are pure. Lord Kapila Dev and Shukadev Goswami are called Muni, and Vyasadeva is addressed as Mahamuni. A devotee is addressed as Muni or thoughtful when he purely understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conclusion is that when one's heart is purified by the association of devotees and by avoidance of the offenses committed while chanting and worshiping the Lord, the transcendental name, form, and activities of the Lord are revealed by the Lord. Om Ajnanatamurandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishnakan Vitams Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvare Vishwamana Shuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhana Namane Shesha Klesha Nashaya Parmananda Daine Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here we're hearing nicely about pure devotional service. This is very, very beautiful instructions given by Lord Shiva about the execution of pure devotional service and how to become a pure devotee, which is our goal. Last night we were speaking all about the Krishna book, all about the pastimes of Krishna. And so it's must be understood what our goal is. What is it we're actually trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve prema, but prema is specifically in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. So we're practicing Vaidhi Bhakti or Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti in accordance with the rules and regulations in an attempt to attain Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, which is Sadhana Bhakti performed in accordance or in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Anuga means follower. We saw ourselves. Rupa Anugas means we're followers of Rupa Goswami. So Raga Anuga means followers of those who have Raga. Raga means deep and intense attachment to the object of love. So who has Raga? Residents of Vrindavan. They have Raga. So Raga Anuga Bhakti means Bhakti in pursuance of the residents of Vrindavan, the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. So, although we might not be on that platform, still we should have in mind what is the prayojana, what is the goal. Right? We have Sambandha Gyan, we have Abhideya, and we have prayojana. So Sambandha Gyan is our relationship with Krishna that has to be established, and then Abhideya is the process by which we act and reestablish that relationship with Krishna. And prayojana is the goal or the result of having that relationship with Krishna. So the prayojana for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is to enter Goloka Vrindavan or to render service in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Our goal is not so much to enter Goloka Vrindavan as it is to render service on that level, to have a relationship with Krishna in one of the primary rasas, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So this is our focus. And so although, like I said, we might not be on that level, still we should have in mind that we are in pursuance of that goal. And that goal is attainable by the pure devotees, by the pure devotees of Krishna. So the devotee whose heart has been completely cleansed by the process of devotional service and who's favored by Yakti Devi does not become bewildered by the external energy. So if we're bewildered, then we're doing something wrong. Our ship has a leak in it. We can understand where we're at with our spiritual practices by the level of bewilderment we face, by the level of challenge we face in going into the modes, ups and downs. We're up sometime, we're down sometime, we're up sometime, we're down sometimes. This is a symptom of being affected by the modes. Although we're always going to experience ups and downs, the steady devotee is not struggling so much. He's at least achieved the stage of Nishta. Manchayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahmabhuya yakalpate. That by engaging in devotional service constantly, bhakti yoga sevate sagunan samatityaitan, that person is above the modes of material nature and he's situated on the platform of Brahman, meaning he understands he's not this body. He has clear knowledge that he's not this body, and therefore nasochiti nakankshati. He doesn't lament, he doesn't desire. He is samasarveshu bhuteshu. He sees all living entities in the same light. He sees that they're equal, and he is developing pure love for God in his heart because he's mad bhaktim labate param. He is situated on that transcendental platform. He's prasanna. He's always joyful. So Prabhupada uses this term quite often, jolly. Prabhupada says that the devotee is always jolly, meaning he's jolly because he knows he's not this body. He's saintly. He's jolly and fearless. We have nothing to fear. So this is a very famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Satam prasangam mamavirya sambiro avanti ritkana rasayana kataha tajjosanaras papavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhakti anukramishiti. This is the verses describing the process by which we become purified in devotional service. Satam prasangam mamavirya sambiro. That sangha of pure devotees is so powerful. It's virya, it's strong, it's wonderful. It's Krishna's activities are so powerful. They're like a lightning bolt in cleansing our heart. It's very pleasing to the ear. And by cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter is freed from his attraction to material things. It says, Shraddha, one develops strong faith. Ratir, one develops strong attachment. Bhaktir, one develops intense devotion. So all those things are anukramashiti. They follow in order as we develop that association with devotees, and especially association in the light of hearing and discussing Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's instructions. You can say, oh yes, I have devotee association, but all we do is joke around and we don't have anything to speak about Krishna. So what is the association? Is it devotee association? Or is it just material association? So although we have devotee association, we should take it very seriously and keep our minds focused on Krishna. We should come to speak about Krishna. And it's very difficult. It's not an easy thing. I'm certainly not expert at that, but we should actually speak of Krishna's pastimes. Sometimes you meet nice devotees who are always interested in speaking of a verse or a realization. They want to share some realization in Krishna consciousness because there's a higher taste there. When you engage in Krishna consciousness, you're hearing classes, you're hearing the books, then at that stage you actually taste Krishna consciousness. It's a much higher taste than any other nonsense you can possibly want to get into. It's much more pleasing to the heart and the mind. And so Prabhupada makes a nice statement in this purport that I thought was very powerful. Simply by associating with a pure devotee, one becomes wonderfully advanced in Krishna consciousness. So I am saying that we can associate with Srila Prabhupada by reading his books. Simply by reading Prabhupada's books, you can become wonderfully advanced in Krishna consciousness. Just read. It's so powerful. It's so powerful to read the whole Bhagavatam, to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, to read the Krishna book, Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bhagavad Gita. You read these books, you're associated with Prabhupada. You become wonderfully advanced. You experience yourself. We don't say that we're advanced like Rupa Goswami or Srila Prabhupada, but we can feel ourselves being advanced by Prabhupada's grace in the form of associating with Prabhupada through his books. We actually have more association with Prabhupada than the Prabhupada disciples did. They maybe got to see Prabhupada 1-2 times. Some didn't, some got more. But they didn't have all of Prabhupada's books at the touch of their hand. They didn't have, all the books weren't even printed yet. We have the entire Bhagavatam, the entire CC, the entire Bhagavad Gita as it is, all at the touch of our hand. We can associate with Srila Prabhupada so intimately. We have the Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita, we have all the Prabhupada memories, we have the Following Srila Prabhupada series. Besides the Leela Amrita, there's so many other nice books by devotees about their pastimes in Srila Prabhupada, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. Since Prabhupada's a transcendental person, his Leelas are just like hearing Krishna's Leelas, because they are Krishna's Leelas. Krishna is with Srila Prabhupada. And so you can associate with Prabhupada deeper than even those who had Prabhupada's Vapu. So you can become wonderfully purified by just simply associating with Srila Prabhupada in the form of reading his books. I highly encourage everybody to read Prabhupada's books as much as possible. It's so powerful. That's the only thing we really have if we want to make advancement. What else do we have? We get the mercy of the devotees, mercy of our guru, mercy of all the Vaishnavas, but mercy of Prabhupada is, it's a big one we need. And it helps us come off a sentimental platform, come to the platform of really understanding Krishna consciousness, not just kind of speculating, kind of, finding my way through. We actually have knowledge. It's called Lokika, Shastrika Shraddha. There's Lokika Shraddha, it means sentimental faith. Means, I got to do a certain thing every day and, raise myself up. And if I do it like this, then I know I'm pleasing Krishna. And if I don't, I'm very disturbed. It's very much based on ritual. And there's kind of a blindness, but this Lokika Shraddha, Shastrika Shraddha, coming from Shastra, Krishna. And you're doing your devotional activities on that platform. You're chanting on that platform. You're worshiping your deity on that platform. And your relationship with Krishna is becoming so tangible that you're beginning to have strong faith, unshakable faith in the Shastras. And when you have that unshakable faith in the Shastras, you can convince others to become devotees. The more you have that, Prabhupada says, different times, he defines the Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and the Kanishthadhikari in different ways at different times. But one of the ways he defines these people is that the Kanishthadhikari, he's very easily disturbed by other philosophies. He doesn't know anything about the Shastra. And when he's presented with another philosophy, he becomes very disturbed and he can tilt this way or that way. Then there's the Madhyamadhikari. He is firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. He has full faith in Krishna because of his experiences of chanting, hearing, remembering Krishna. He has firm faith in Krishna. He is, even if he's defeated in an argument about theological things, he's not going to move from Krishna. And the Uttamadhikari is he who has knowledge of the Shastra and can defeat so many arguments based on that Shastra, and in that way convince others to become devotees. So this is one way Prabhupada defines those terms. There's other ways Prabhupada defines those terms in other places in his books. And so that's just one way. But it's not so hard to become firmly fixed by reading and hearing sadhu sangha. We're associating with each other very nicely, associating with the senior devotees we have here very nicely, but very, very important to take Prabhupada's association. Very important. At least this is how I feel. We say, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriyakya. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from your lotus mouth. Yet, do I really want that? That's the question. If I really want that, I'd read those books, right? Because that's it. Those are the words emanating from Prabhupada's lotus mouth. So then there's a nice other statement that I found in here. Sadhu Sangha, or association with a devotee, means always engaging in Krishna consciousness. That means not engaging in Maya consciousness. So even if we're with devotees, but we're engaging in Maya, then that's not Sadhu Sangha. By chanting Hare Krishna mantra and acting for Krishna. Of course, I'm not saying that we don't have loving exchanges and be playful and joke. Of course, Prabhupada was like that and devotees are like that, but we don't want to go overboard and become absorbed in that, because then it's very easy for our minds to not be strong. Specifically, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra purifies one, and thus chanting is therefore recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this chanting, Prabhupada's specifically focusing in on chanting here. So chanting is so very important for our progressive advancement in spiritual life. This is the basis. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way. Just learning and hearing is great, but we have to chant. And so if chanting is so crucial to our spiritual advancement, we have to take our chanting very seriously. I got the great fortune of associating with His Holiness Mahavishnu Swami Maharaj for a week 3 years ago. And I don't know who has more taste for the holy name than Mahavishnu Swami. I don't. I've not found anybody in my life to see that. He just does not stop chanting. Doing kirtan. He just does kirtan all the time. Every moment there's a free space. If he's not eating, chanting japa, giving a class, he's doing kirtan. Or resting. He just constantly engages in Harinam or japa. And he's unbelievably eccentric and wonderful devotee. And his association is Satam Prasangam Mamavirya Samvido. It's very powerful. Life-changing. I would absolutely say that out of all the sadhus I've met, he's one of the most life-changing people I've ever met, just by his association. I think some of the devotees who were there at that time, who were with us at that time, also experienced that. I went through a very deep change by his association in terms of my dedication to trying to do Harinam Sankirtan, which is the Yuga Dharma. I loved his association so much that I was crying when he was leaving. I was very sad because I did not want to leave his association. And I said, he was sleeping on the couch at Radhapraran Prabhu's house. And I was sitting there and he woke up and he looked at me very sweetly and he says, Kirtanesvara Prabhu. He goes, you're just a young lad. You can come with us if you want, but I don't think the temple president would be happy. I said, no, Maharaj, I got to stay and do my duty, but can you give me one instruction so that I can always have you in my heart? You can just give me one instruction that I can always follow and in that way associate with you. Viyavani. He said, what a fantastic idea. And he said, let me think about it. So then some time went by, and then I was just going to say my final obeisances to Maharaj, and I said, Maharaj said, okay, here's your instruction. He opened the Chaitanya Charitamrita and he found a particular purport. And in that purport, Prabhupada makes one statement that, the chanting of Hare Krishna is so blissful, so wonderful, so powerful, so ecstatic, but it should always be done very seriously. And even though I'm so ecstatic and so, eccentric in so many ways, I'm always chanting very seriously. I'm not just saying these words, I'm calling out to Krishna and chanting very seriously. So we should take our japa very seriously, take our opportunity to do kirtan very seriously. I know that just recently in the last 6 months, I've been really focusing in on the fact that we get the opportunity to do kirtan every morning, Mangal Arati, Guru Puja. And this is the Yuga Dharma, is we live for kirtan, but so many of the times our minds can be other places and it just becomes ritualistic. But actually, we're having the opportunity to do kirtan, we should call with our entire heart every kirtan. And the more that I've come to focus in on that, my Krishna consciousness has become more steady. That has at least been my experience. So there's a lot of nice points made in this purport. I just wanted to bring those two out, and then I wanted to bring this point out that, we're talking of pure devotional service, and ultimately pure devotional service in this mood of Vrindavan, very sweet, very beautiful, very powerful mood of entering into Krishna Lila. So we should talk a little about Bhagavad Gita and what it says about associating with devotees. There's some very nice verses and purports in connection to that. We're going to go to the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Although I didn't prepare for class, this is just actually all Krishna speaking. Oh, here we go. Very, very sweet. So Krishna says, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukriton arjuna arto jigyasur artarti gyani cha bharatarshava. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So Prabhupada says in this purport that these are not pure devotees. These 4 types of men are not pure devotees. And I want to focus in specifically on the Jnani because Krishna says the Jnani is the highest of all. But we'll go a little into this purport here. Prabhupada says, Unlike the miscreants, these are adherents of the regulative principles of the scriptures. And they are called Sukritina, or those who obey the rules and regulations of the scriptures, the moral and social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of these, there are 4 classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching for knowledge of the absolute truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. So it's conditional. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for their devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration, without desire for material profit. Prabhupada quotes the verse, Anyabhilashita sunyam, Gyanam karmanyunavritam, anukulyena krishnana, shilanam bhakti rutama. This is Rupa Goswami's definition of pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is anyabhilashita shunya. What's shunya mean? It means void, right? We say shunyavadi, paschachadeshatadadi. It means the voidists, the shunyavadis. So anyabhilashita shunya. So this shunya means it with completely free of material desires, sinful desires. No illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. Only service to Krishna. And all those activities that we do on a secondary platform, marriage, all the different rituals we do, all that is in accordance with helping us to perform the primary processes of falling in love with Krishna via hearing and chanting. Everything's meant to support that. All of our ashram, brahmachari, sannyas, all of that is secondary to this hearing and chanting. So it's anyabhilashita shunyam. Jnanam karmanyunavritam. It's free of jnana. It's free of your mental speculation. You can't be a mental speculator, meaning that you have to understand submissively from the spiritual master, from the shastras, from the sadhus, what is devotional service, and in that way understand and perform accordingly. Karmanyunavritam. It's free of karma, free of fruitative result. I don't want anything for my devotional service. I must be performing devotional service free of material desire, free of any want. Now, we may have material desires, or there might be propensities. We may have propensity to act in a certain way, to be in a certain ashram, so forth. That's okay. We must think of it like taking prasadam. We all have to eat, right? Every devotee has to eat, take prasad. But the devotee's devotional service is that I don't want to take anything that you don't taste, my dear Krishna. So in the same way, I don't want to do any activity. I don't want to get married. I don't want to take sannyas. I don't want to do any of these things unless it's done in devotional service to you. Let me offer it to you. So in that way, everything becomes purified. The devotee becomes a true sannyasi, whatever ashram they may be in, because they only want to act for Krishna. Although they may not be able to act for Krishna in a certain capacity, they can act for Krishna in another capacity. Just like Arjuna was not able to act in the capacity of a renunciate. He was not supposed to go to the forest. He was supposed to fight. So yet, he engaged that in Krishna service. So, anukulyena Krishna now shilanam bhakti rutama. One should follow in the footsteps of the great devotees and should do devotional service that is favorable to Krishna. We have to learn, especially by associating with Krishna through the devotees and through chanting very serious and focused rounds, you begin to experience what is pleasing to Krishna, especially preaching is pleasing to Krishna. How to act in a way that's pleasing to Krishna, to do all my activities in a way that's pleasing to Krishna, favorable toward Krishna, while following in the footsteps of the pure devotees, of the great acharyas. Then our devotional service becomes Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. The Prabhupada continues on, when these 4 kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service, they are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee. They also become pure devotees. So there are 4 types of pious men who come to Krishna consciousness. Those who are curious, those who are distressed, those who are just wanting money, and those who are jnanis, are seeking knowledge of the absolute truth. And specifically that word jnani, Prabhupada translates that, but you can dive into that word in the Sanskrit. The jnani is one who actually understands I'm not this body. one who actually has real knowledge, because we think of knowledge as so many things. But when this word gyan is used specifically, it refers to knowledge of matter and spirit. So the jnani is he who has understood that I am not matter, I am spirit, and therefore I should learn about God. So by association with a pure devotee, he becomes pure. So why is it that the jnani, Krishna's, next verses. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is very dear to me. So why is it that the jnani is the best? Yeah, he's seeking pure knowledge. It's a very high platform. He's seeking pure knowledge. But why is it that he's not a pure devotee? He's still a jnani. He's still one of the 4 types of unpure devotees. He's a devotee, no doubt. But he's not karmani jnanam karmani navritam. We said jnanam karmani navritam, free from jnana. So why is he not a pure devotee? Yeah, he's actually obsessed with his own spiritual advancement. So Prabhupada says, free from all contamination of material desires, the distressed, the inquisitive, the penniless, and the seeker after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. But out of them, he who is in knowledge of the absolute and is free from material desires becomes a really pure devotee of the Lord. And of the 4, the devotee who is in full knowledge and is at the same time engaged in devotional service, the Lord says is the best. By searching after knowledge, one realizes that his self is different from his material body. And when further advanced, he comes to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. When one is fully purified, he realizes that his constitutional position is to be the eternal servant of God. So by association with pure devotees, the inquisitive, the distressed, the seeker after material amelioration, and the man in knowledge all become themselves pure. But in the preparatory stage, the man who is in full knowledge of the Supreme Lord and is at the same time exchanging devotional service is very dear to the Lord. He is situated in the pure knowledge of transcendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is so protected in devotional service that material contamination cannot touch him. So very powerfully, Prabhupada is saying that the jnani, or he who has this knowledge, he's immune to material contamination, yet he's not a pure devotee. Because the jnani, or the person on that platform, is still obsessed with their own pure devotionals, their own spiritual advancement. They're obsessed with, where am I at? How much do I know about Krishna? I need to learn more about Krishna. This is their motivation, which is not bad, but it's different from Mother Yashoda. It's different from Nanda Maharaj. They simply just love Krishna. That's their whole thing. You think Mother Yashoda is thinking, if only I could be more advanced in Krishna consciousness? No, she's thinking, where is Krishna? I hope he's not hurt. I hope his toes aren't getting poked by the sharp grasses and sticks with the cows. I hope he doesn't get stepped on by a cow's foot. This is what Mother Yashoda is thinking. So she's simply in love with Krishna. She's realized Krishna is everything. So then going on, continuous verses, very famous verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudevam Sarvam Iti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So after many, many births and deaths, one who is actually in knowledge realizes me and surrenders unto me, understanding that I am the source of all things and all that be. Such a great soul is very, very rare. Very, very rare. So what we're hearing here is Bahunam Janmanam Ante, after births and deaths, after many, many years of cultivating knowledge, Gyanavan, he who actually comes to that level of a true jnani, Mam Prapadyate, he surrenders to Krishna. Because he's realized, Vasudevam Sarvamiti, that you're all that matters, Krishna. There's nothing but you. Nothing matters but you. And this is one of the most insightful purports in the whole Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says, the living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals, after many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning toward impersonalism. So that leaning toward impersonalism is this jnana. There's this leaning toward knowledge, and I don't want to see Krishna as a person because I'm really just too bewildered by my senses in my mind. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in spiritual life. What are the activities in spiritual life? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, so forth. The 9 processes of devotional service. And that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders unto him. He becomes attached to Krishna. And that's why last night I said, we can talk all the philosophy, but, this Krishna book, these leelas, this is the nectar. This is what we really live for. We want to enter this. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything. This is the point here. That Lord Krishna's mercy is everything. There's nothing but Krishna. I'm not this body. He has full knowledge he's not this body, meaning he becomes unaffected by all things that happen to this body. He's free from karma completely. Because if you really understand I'm the soul within the body, the soul, there's neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, will not come into being. He does not come into being, will not come into being. He's eternal, everlasting, primeval. So what can affect the soul? Nothing. I'm completely unaffected by the activities of the body and the mind. Karma is only happening to the illusion. It's all an illusion. He has true jnana, and therefore he realizes that, Krishna, I am yours in all circumstances, in all times, in all places. If you want to cover me over with illusion, if that's your prerogative, my dear Lord, then you may do that. If you want to elevate me to Goloka Vrindavan, then you may do that, my dear Lord. But factually, whether I'm aware or I'm not, I am your eternal servant. Therefore, if you desire, please pick me up and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. That's the mood of a pure devotee. That I simply love you, Krishna. I'm simply attached to my service to you. I'm attached to you. I'm attached to your form, name, form, pastimes, and qualities. So this is the process of becoming a pure devotee. And only in association with a pure devotee can we develop that. Because a pure devotee is the factually liberated person. Why is he the factually liberated person? Because only he can really, truly understand I'm not this body and be situated in his pure position. And so therefore, a pure devotee has no fear of reaction. He'll do anything for Krishna. He's not concerned with, well, what if I do this? I'm going to get that and this. And then, No. He's simply surrendered to Krishna. And therefore, he's always peaceful. He understands. Bhaktaram yagitapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatamam shantam richyati. He understands. Krishna is the Bhakta. He's the Maheshwara. Krishna is the enjoyer of everything. He's the Maheshwara, the controller of everything. He's the friend of everyone. Therefore, gyatamam shantam richyati. He's always peaceful. He's always peaceful. Therefore, we have to hear about Krishna in the association of Krishna's devotees. And, this verse here that we read today is very similar to a very famous verse in the Bhagavatam. It's very similar. The Yasya Chitam Bahir Artha Vibramam reminds me of another very famous verse. Nasyatya Chitam Padamhari Yasho. Speaking of, even if you fail in your devotional service, even if you engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord and you fail, there's no loss. But if you engage in perfect material activities perfectly, it's all lost. It's useless without devotional service to the Lord. There's a verse, Nayad vachashchitram paramariyasho jagat kavitam paganita karichit tadvayasam tirdamushanti mana nayatra hamsa niramant yushikshaya. This is Narada Muni speaking to Vyasadeva. He's saying, this is association with the pure devotee right here, speaking of this pastime. Vyasadeva had written so many scriptures on karma and jnana. He wrote the Vedas, so many fruitive activities. He wrote the Vedanta Sutra, dealing with so much jnana. But he was unsatisfied. So he needed to associate with the pure devotee Narada Muni. And by associating with Narada Muni told him that those literatures, the yad vachas means that vocabulary. It's where we get the word vocabulary, vachas. The yad vachas chitram paramarayasho, those words which do not describe the chitra padam, the feet of Hari, padam, jagat pavitam praganita kari chit, which purify the entire universe, are tadvayasam tirdam ushanti manasa. They're likened by saintly people, are comparing them to places of pilgrimage for the crows, tadvayasam tirdam. They're like a place of pilgrimage for the crows. Therefore, the yatra hamsa niramant yushikshaya. The hamsas, the all perfect persons who are residents of the transcendental abode, do not delight in such literatures. So, therefore, we should avoid the crow kata and focus on the swan kata, the hamsa kata. What is the hamsa kata? Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the scripture for Paramahamsas. And he says, Tadvaj Vishargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhadavyat Yati. That this, on the other hand, Tadvaj Vishargo Janataga Viplavo, this, on the other hand, this literature which is describing Krishna, his form, pastimes, it's of a different creation altogether. Namanyantasyasya sonkintani yachrinmati gayanti grinati saravaha. It's of a different creation altogether, filled with transcendental words and descriptions of the Lord. This literature is meant to bring about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are sung and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Sadhavaha. So we should hear about Krishna in the association of Krishna's devotees. There's one devotee in Mayapur, and he's got an interesting story, but he's very purified now from living in Mayapur. His name is Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu, and no matter what, he'll always just talk about Krishna's pastimes. You sit down with him for lunch, he just starts telling you a Krishna pastime. And after so long, you think, this is really, really nice, really sweet here. So I just want to bring up one last point here about Sadhu Sangha, because Prabhupada mentions this, Satam Prasangam Amavirya Samviro, that this is a verse, we've been studying verses in our Bhakti Vaibhava. And so this verse is a very famous verse that we're memorizing in Bhakti Vaibhava, and it comes in a string of other verses that I actually gave class on Sunday. Starting with the very famous, what is a sadhu? I mean, we want sadhu sangha, so what is a sadhu? Tatikshava karunika surida sarvadehimam ajata shatravashanta sadhava sadhubhushana. So the symptoms of a sadhu are that he's tolerant, merciful, friendly, he has no enemies, he is peaceful, he abides in the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. This is a sadhu. We have to associate with such people. And the next verse is very, very powerful. See if I have it memorized here. Mayananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedridam matkrite twaktva karmanas twaktva swajana bandhava. So such a person is a sadhu. He's engaged in staunch devotional service. Yedridam. Mad bhaktim kurvanti yedridam. This dritra, this staunch, vowed, determined devotional service. And for the sake of the Lord, He matkrite twaktva karmanas. He renounces all these fruitive activities. Twaktva swajana. He renounces unnecessary material attachments to people, including family. He renounces everything that's not helping him as Krishna consciousness. Twaktva bandhava. He renounces all kinds of materialistic friendships to engage in the service of the Lord. Next verse, he says, this is Lord Kapila Dev said, engaged constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with the thoughts of my pastimes and activities. So we don't want to suffer. If we don't want to suffer, then always engage yourself in the thoughts of Krishna's pastimes and activities. This is the process. Think of Krishna. Always think of Krishna, become his devotee, worship him, offer your homage unto him, so forth. And then you won't suffer. So this is the cure to our disease. So in conclusion, we should read Prabhupada's books, associate with Srila Prabhupada, the purest devotee we can possibly find. That's the greatest sadhu sangha we can get. And associate with those who are also reading his books, chant really good japa. Prabhupada has in this purport that the holy name is our main purifier, so why not take it very seriously? Chant very nicely, and become a pure devotee. Don't be a jnani, don't be a karmi, don't be a yogi. Come to the level of loving Krishna for Krishna, which means you have to associate with those devotees who are simply interested in his service, not obsessed with knowledge and so many things. Of course, pure devotees have knowledge, but it's not the main. The knowledge is in pursuance of my service to Krishna. And so that's where deity worship is very powerful, because in the deity worship, you're really able to kind of let yourself into this mood of I'm just serving Krishna. And therefore, the deity worship purifies our chanting. I know I've been worshiping my Govardhan Chila for almost a year now, and he's definitely changed my life in a very profound way. So yeah, and then associate with staunch sadhus who are fixed in their determination to serve Krishna, and then you'll make rapid advancement. So any questions or comments, realizations? Suresh Prabhu.
I see this line, this purport has one of my favorite Prabhupada lines. I just wanted to discuss it. A devotee is thoughtful and a non-devotee is speculative. Did you discuss that at all?
I didn't discuss that one. We discussed some other lines in the purport that I thought were very profound, but that's a very profound line.
I'm curious what devotees, because Krishna Kshetra Swami just asked me to write something about the third canto. He does this every year. He invites people to write things. And I was going to write on that line. So I'm curious if devotees have any reflections on what that means to them. I know what it means to me, but...
Well, it means that we should think about Krishna and think about how to serve Krishna, think about how to understand Krishna, even speculate as to how we can possibly please Krishna. Whereas the non-devotee is just speculating about so many things without any real knowledge. So Prabhupada, I think later in that same purport, he says, the devotee is always thinking of Krishna's pastimes. He's very thoughtful, but not in the way that the jnani is just speculating.
So what's the difference between being thoughtful and being speculative? That's what I'm really want to know from the devotees. Okay, here's Chris.
So my background is in engineering and science and finding the truth in the material. And one of the things about the regulative principle about no gambling, when I first heard that, I thought, how ridiculous! What I mean, I don't gamble, like I don't go to the casino and play, but there's a kind of science, or the pursuit of truth and knowledge, which is gambling. It's speculation. So when I heard that speculation is a form of gambling, then it made sense to me. And throughout my life as someone searching for the truth, both in the material world and the spiritual, I've paid a lot of attention to this question: how can you tell the difference? How do you know when you're speculating, and how do you know when you know the truth, when you really have a handle on the truth?
What's the difference?
And what I've found is that I can only really be getting the truth when I'm using what materials call intuition, which means going beyond simple brain functioning. So if you're connecting with God or you're connecting with some kind of spiritual consciousness, you're getting close to the truth. You have a way of getting the truth. And if you don't have that kind of connection, there's no way you're going to ever know for sure, know anything for sure. And so you're always going to be speculating if you don't have spiritual consciousness. If you do-
Prabhupada says at one point, he says that the difference between the philosophical speculation, mental speculation, is that the philosophical speculator is accepting God and accepting Shastra. We're not speculating about Krishna. We've accepted everything that Krishna says. But the thoughtfulness of a devotee is, Krishna says, I am the taste of water, but how is Krishna the taste of water? How is Krishna the light of the sun and the moon? How is Krishna the wind? How is Krishna the ocean? Whereas the scientist is just thinking, what is the sun? What is the moon? And not understanding, not accepting Krishna. That's what I've heard.
Let me just say one.
You can talk to everybody else too.
Yeah, well,
Well, Omar wants to say something now, so let him
I just
also
had
share.
one more thing on this. So the difference between speculating and thoughtfulness, or speculating and the true knowledge, is not just whether you believe that Krishna is true or not, is if you're actually in communication with the Paramatma or Krishna, somehow, on some amount of that communication. And the clearer that communication is, the closer you are to the truth. So that's my understanding and experience.
That would seem to be, I mean, that's easily self-deceiving unless you're connected with the spiritual master.
Exactly, you can very easily deceive yourself, and then that's speculation.
Nice point to make is that Krishna says, Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami bhuri yogam tam yenamam upayanti te, that you don't really talk to Krishna in your heart unless you're fully engaged in devotional service. And the only way to become fully engaged in devotional service is to surrender to a spiritual master. So once again, you have to take spiritual knowledge from the authoritative sources as not to speculate. And then by that service, one can actually hear Krishna in your heart. Omar Sami, Prabhu.
Yeah, I was kind of taking thoughtful as being like caring or like loving. It's like the devotees, like they already have the truth. Now they're being thoughtful. Like, okay, I'm like, what can I do for Krishna? Like out of love. So I thought it's just like a different mode of being.
Yeah, that's also nice. So Sri Prabhu, what's your answer that you've been trying to get us to bring out? Because we know you have an answer. So
You already said, the devotee is thoughtful, but his thoughts, his thinking process is so purified, right, with reference to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, real authority, real connection with Krishna through Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Whereas when we're just speculating, we are our own authority, which is really dangerous.
okay. All right, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this verse. I was having a lot of fun with it. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.